All right, it's 6 o'clock, and I do want to get started now, even though some people may come in later. My name is Karen Bramble. I'm the chair of Plymouth Council, and I see a lot of people here I know. I'm just going to introduce who the people are and who may be speaking tonight so that you know who everybody is. At the far end down this way is Chris Loschiavo. He heads up our Public Works Department, which includes, of course, sanitation. They use the roads, snow clearing, and the repaving of roads. Next to Mr. Loschiavo is Matt West, our new township manager, played a really key role in putting together this town hall. After Matt West is Aaron Nelson. He represents Ward 4, Cardinal View area, Plymouth Park area, around there. Right next to me on this side is Kristen Frederick Leonard, and she represents Ward 2, the Valley, the East Valley. Lynn Vicio right here is the vice chair, and she represents Ward 3, all around Jolly Road, the community center, Lawnfall Road, and up in that area. Next to her, also wearing pink tonight, is Nick Whitney, and he represents Ward 1, which includes Cunningtown, Black Rock, and all around in that area. After Nick is our chief of police, who's going to be giving a presentation tonight, John Mirciotis, Chief Mirciotis, and next to him is Peter O'Halloran, who is the township's traffic engineer. He is a qualified traffic engineer, and he works for a number of townships. He happens to be ours as well. I'm going to make just a few, and I want to welcome all of you, and thank you for coming to this really important meeting. And I'll just stand up so you can see me, but the others are going to use that podium because they have presentations to make. So tonight's town hall is about traffic calming. These involve issues of congestion, speeding, cut through neighborhoods, that kind of thing. It concerns all of us, whether we have children taking the school bus, playing in the front yard, we're trying to get home ourselves, we want to be safe ourselves. This is not going to be a town hall about development. So we're not going to talk about whether development contributes or doesn't contribute or what kind of development we do or do not want. We're planning a town hall on development. Tonight we're going to talk about what's the traffic situation and how can we manage it. That's tonight's topic. The first part of our presentation will be by our traffic engineer. That is Peter O'Halloran, and he is going to do a traffic calming overview, an educational presentation. The intended purpose of this is to show what types of measures are available. And I'll tell you, since we started putting this town hall together, I've learned about a lot more than just police giving tickets and speed bumps in the middle of the road. There are a lot of ways that we can calm traffic around here. Next, we're going to have a presentation by our chief of police, and he's going to be backed up by some of his officers who are out there every day trying to deal with the people who don't stop at the stop signs, the people who don't stop for the school buses of all things, don't stop for the fire engines. Unbelievable. So he's going to talk about the traffic calming policy that we are developing, and we are developing a policy. That policy is being based on input from our entire township staff. That includes Chris Loschiavo in Public Works, Matt West, who's heading it all up as our township manager, our police department, who have the data and the facts and the figures that will be explained to you, our finance department. It costs money, right, to put people out on the streets, to build things to calm traffic. So finance is going to have a role in that as well. Of course, our traffic engineer will have a role in developing that policy. And all of you who are here tonight, anyone who's listening live streaming or tunes into this later, so if there's anything tonight that you're like, oh, I forgot about this, this entire presentation will appear on the township website, so you can go back and listen to things again. That policy that we're developing will be based on objective, hard data and evidence, and it will set forth a process by which traffic calming measures can take place, whether it's initiated by someone here, a township resident, or whether the process is initiated by the police from what they see, or from, like Public Works or somebody. We're going to be proactive, not just reactive. And the final version of our traffic calming policy will be voted on by council, adopted by council, and will appear on the website. We will have very clear, identified process by which you can participate for your own neighborhood, your own streets in the traffic calming process. And I just want to say, when you sat down, there was an index card on your seat. We're going to have a hard stop at 8 o'clock. So, but we're going to start questions and answers for an hour at 7 o'clock. So and we're going to take the written questions first, because I think there's a tendency with this many people that people can come up and say the same thing over and over. You know, what's happening on Sheffield might be happening on Elm Street, might be happening on Jolly Road. So we have a lot of problems in common. So we're going to take all the written questions first. We'll be gathering them as we go along and sorting them out so that we are sure to address everybody's question. Not just a question, but if you have a suggestion or if you have a concern, write it down. We are going to keep all of that. And then if there is time, we want to allow at least 10 minutes for people to come and actually speak their own questions, and we'll have a mic for you to speak into, okay? And everybody will have a chance, at least in writing, to express your concerns. And if you think of something later or in rewatching the presentation, shoot an email to our township manager or any one of us on council, and we will get back to you about it. There's a lot of information tonight, a lot to take in. You'll think of things tomorrow, and you're like, oh, why didn't I ask about that? So I'm done, and just a few minutes by Ms. Vicio, and then we're going to start with our township engineer, who's going to explain to you what is traffic calming. It has statutory definitions, and what can be done. It's in the statutes. Go ahead, Lynn.
Thanks, Karen. I just want to say thanks, welcome, and thanks again for being here. I wanted to tell you two very specific reasons why we are holding a town hall tonight on this topic. So the first one is this. Number one, as a council, we are very committed to enhancing our communication to residents. And that means all kinds of things when we talk about enhancing our communication. So, for example, one of the things we're doing is completely renovating our website. Okay, we're not going to talk about that tonight, but stay tuned. In the near future, you'll hear more about our website. Another thing we want to do is create more forums like this for two-way dialogue and discussion. So things like town halls, where we have a chance to tell you what we're thinking, what we've heard, what our ideas are, and you have a chance to have a voice. And we're trying to do that on topics, too. We've committed to do 2 or 3 town halls a year on topics that we know are of interest to you. And by the show of people in the room today, I think we hit the nail on the head. This is a topic that's of interest to you. So we want to know what you're thinking. We want a chance to tell you what some of our ideas are, what some of the concerns are around managing traffic calming solutions, but we also want to hear your ideas, your concerns, your questions. This is the 4th town hall that this council has conducted, and we're committed to do more in the future, as Karen said, on topics like development, which we know are also of interest. But more specifically, I want to tell you why we're doing a town hall on traffic calming. Number one, it's important, right? Nothing is more important to us than public safety issues. We take those seriously, we address them, we prioritize them. We know Plymouth is a busy place. There's a lot of traffic in Plymouth, and it doesn't all start in Plymouth. Like we're a pass-through community, and we get that, we understand that. So proactively, we want to manage it. Additionally, we have heard you. You've reached out to us. We've heard from people on Jolly, on Sierra, on Sheffield, on New Elm Street, on Butler, on Hickory, on Belvoir. We've heard that you have concerns about your neighborhood, concerns about the volume of cut-through traffic, the speed at which people travel through your neighborhood, the fact that people don't stop for school buses, they blow through stop signs. We've heard you, and we want to be responsive to that. So we want to be proactive where we know there are hot spots. We also want to be responsive and reactive where we know you come to us with a concern. And that's what this is about tonight. It's a chance for us to do both, to share proactively some of our ideas and to make sure you know we're being responsive. And most importantly, we want you to know we're listening, we want you to know we're taking action, and we want you to be clear. We want to be clear that we're doing this in a way that we consider thorough and fair and comprehensive and strategic, because at the end of the day, township resources, including our police chief and our police department, are finite resources. And we value those, and we want to make sure that we're using those wisely, and we want to make sure we're using your tax dollars wisely. So we're really working hard to come up with a solution that we feel is fair, comprehensive, strategic, and prioritizes public safety in some of these traffic calming issues. Sound good? All right, excellent. I'm going to turn it over to Peter Halloran and our traffic engineer for a traffic calming overview. I think, is that Mike?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Peter O'Halloran. I'm the Traffic and Transportation Department Manager at Carroll Engineering Corporation. And as mentioned previously, we are the Township Engineer for Plymouth Township. I have over 24 years of experience in the industry, including both design and review, and I'm happy to be here tonight to discuss some technical aspects of traffic calming. So, traffic calming is defined by the Institute of Transportation Engineers as the combination of physical features that reduce the negative effects of motor vehicle use, alter driver behavior, and improve conditions for non-motorized street users. In addition to the physical features mentioned, the other component of traffic calming is psychological in nature. Designed correctly, a traffic calming feature can convince drivers of the need to reduce speeds or to avoid certain shortcuts. Reducing speeds and high volume cut-through traffic are the primary targets of traffic calming measures. Traffic calming measures are typically the final step in the process referred to as the 3 E's: education, enforcement, and engineering. They are most appropriate on the following roadway types. Number 1, local residential streets. Number 2, collector streets with predominantly residential land uses. And lastly, arterial roads with downtown districts or commercial areas that have a posted speed limit of 40 miles an hour or less. Most of the information I'm presenting can be found in PennDOT's Traffic Calming Handbook, published in July 2012. You can find it by name or by searching for PennDOT publication 383. Okay, so the first category of traffic calming measure I would like to discuss is known as vertical deflection. This is when a change is created in the roadway height, causing vehicles to slow down. Vertical deflection can be used to reduce driver speeds and improve pedestrian crossing safety. Speed humps are the most well-known vertical deflection traffic calming measure. Speed humps are typically 3 to 4 inches in height and 12 to 20 feet in length. They can be used as a standalone device in the middle of a street, or they can be incorporated into a pedestrian crossing. The advantages of a speed hump are that they can be very effective in slowing down traffic on residential streets. They are relatively inexpensive to install and maintain. They can reduce motor vehicle conflicts, and they should not pose any problems for users except at high speeds. They do have some disadvantages. They are not appropriate for emergency response routes. They should be avoided on major transit routes. They may cause issues for snow removal, and they may cause drainage issues. A speed cushion is a modified type of speed hump with spaces between each cushion to allow wider axle emergency vehicles to pass without slowing down. The advantages of this are that they can lead to a reduction in vehicular speeds, they can lead to a reduction in vehicular roadway volumes, they have minimal impact on emergency vehicles, and they can be installed on major emergency response routes. The disadvantages are that they may cause traffic to divert to a surrounding neighborhood roadways, and they may cause issue for snow removal. Another type of vertical deflection is the raised crosswalk or the raised intersection. At a raised crosswalk or intersection, the surface of the roadway is raised 3 to 6 inches above street level. The advantages of this are that they reduce vehicle-pedestrian conflicts by providing better visibility for pedestrians. Combined with other features such as curb bulb outs and landscaping, the visual environment can be improved. And they also provide a minor reduction in travel speeds. Some disadvantages of this feature are that they are expensive to construct and maintain, and they result in an average delay of 4 to 6 seconds for emergency vehicles. The second type of traffic calming measure I'd like to discuss is known as horizontal deflection. There are 2 types. The first type hinders the driver's ability to drive in a straight line by creating a horizontal shift in the roadway. The second type of horizontal deflection is designed to narrow the width of the travel lane. So a main type of horizontal deflection traffic calming feature is the curb bulb out. Curb bulb outs can be used to improve pedestrian safety, primarily by reducing the crossing distance, and they can be constructed at an intersection or at a mid-block location. The advantages of curb bulb outs are that they contribute to an improvement in pedestrian safety, they may reduce travel speeds, they may prevent slow right-turning vehicles, they prevent illegal parking close to intersections, they can facilitate pedestrian access directly to transit vehicles without entering the intersection, and they can improve neighborhood appearance with landscaping and/or textured treatments. Some disadvantages of bulb outs include that they can result in a loss of on-street parking if used at a mid-block location. They may make it difficult to accommodate bike lanes, and they may cause issues for snow removal. Another type of horizontal deflection is the chicane. A chicane is a series of 3 curb extensions staggered on alternating sides of the street at a mid-block location. Vehicles are forced to negotiate the narrow roadway in a snake-like fashion. The advantages of a chicane are that they reduce vehicular speeds, they reduce travel speeds, they may reduce noise pollution due to lower speeds and volumes. With landscaping, they may improve the neighborhood appearance, and studies have shown that chicanes are effective in reducing the number of collisions. Some disadvantages of chicanes are that with a 2-lane chicane, some drivers may attempt to increase their travel speed by crossing the center line to maintain a straight line of travel. They will result in the loss of on-street parking, and they can hinder heavy truck operations. And also, they may cause issues for snow removal. Another type of horizontal deflection is the gateway. Gateways are special entrance treatments that provide identity to a neighborhood by using a combination of physical and textural changes. Their advantages include that they help to identify a neighborhood, they create added streetscape for landscaping, they can discourage truck entry, they also emphasize a change in environment from an arterial to a residential street, and they help reduce vehicle speeds. A disadvantage of a gateway is that if textured pavements are used, some noise will result from that. So on-street parking can also be used as a form of horizontal deflection. So parking on one or both sides of the roadway has the effect of reducing the roadway width, which in turn causes drivers to slow down. By law, on-street parking in Pennsylvania is permitted unless otherwise prohibited. So the advantages of using on-street parking are that it may reduce travel speeds depending on the extent of the on-street parking. Also, parked vehicles can provide a buffer between the street and the sidewalk. Some disadvantages include that they can reduce the visibility of pedestrians and vehicles to each other, and there's an increased risk of conflict between cyclists and drivers opening their doors on narrow travel lanes. So the next type of horizontal deflection is the raised median island pedestrian refuge. So median islands are narrow islands between travel lanes, see them there, that can be designed with breaks and landscaping and curbing for pedestrians. The advantages of them include that they separate opposing vehicle travel lanes and prevent passing movements. They can be designed with breaks for pedestrian refuges and may reduce vehicle-pedestrian conflicts. They also allow pedestrians to cross the street in 2 stages, should they wish. They may decrease vehicle speeds, and they can be used on curves to prevent vehicles from swinging wide at excessive speeds. Some disadvantages of a raised median island are that they may require the removal of on-street parking to create room for the median, and they may restrict access to driveways from one direction. The last type of horizontal deflection I'll discuss is traffic circles. So traffic circles are raised islands located in the center of an unsignalized intersection. All traffic must negotiate the circle and circulate in a counterclockwise direction. Their advantages include that they reduce travel speeds and they can enhance the neighborhood appearance when properly landscaped. Also, studies have shown that they can significantly reduce vehicle collisions, in particular right-angle crashes. This is because they reduce the number of conflict points. The disadvantages include that they may make it difficult for emergency vehicles, buses, or trucks to make a left turn. They may be inappropriate on major emergency response routes, and they may require the removal of some on-street parking. The next category of traffic calming measures are called physical obstructions. These measures prevent vehicle movements, thereby discouraging or eliminating cut-through traffic. The overall traffic volume reduction depends upon the nature of the traffic calming measure and the number of movements obstructed. The first type of measure in this category is the semi-diverter. Sometimes referred to as half closures or partial diverters, semi-diverters prevent travel in one direction on a street by blocking half the street with a physical barrier. Semi-diverters, normally 16 to 23 feet in length, create a one-way roadway at the point of construction, while two-way traffic is maintained on the remaining portions of the roadway. Pardon me. So the advantages of semi-diverters are that they reduce cut-through traffic volumes without restricting bike and pedestrian access. They may reduce travel speeds. Emergency vehicles are permitted to circumvent diverters, provided there is adequate sight distance, and they can enhance the neighborhood appearance when properly landscaped. Some disadvantages are that they can be violated, especially in the late evening and on particularly low-volume streets. They also may require the loss of on-street parking to permit emergency vehicle access, and they also may reduce access for residents. Okay. So a diagonal diverter is a physical barrier placed diagonally across a four-way intersection to create two unconnected intersections. The advantages include that, again, they tend to reduce traffic volumes, they increase safety by eliminating conflicting traffic movements, they have a lesser impact on traffic circulation when compared to a total street closure, they may reduce travel speeds, and they can enhance the neighborhood when properly landscaped. The disadvantages of a diagonal diverter include that they can shift the problem elsewhere unless a strategic pattern of diverters is used. They may inconvenience local residents in accessing their homes, and they can delay emergency service vehicles. So a right-in, right-out island is a form of intersection channelization that prevents left turns and through movements to and from a side street at an intersection with a major street. The advantages of this are that they reduce the traffic volumes on the local streets. They can improve pedestrian safety by reducing the crossing distance and providing a refuge area. Some disadvantages are that they may divert traffic to parallel streets that don't contain traffic calming measures, and they can restrict resident access. The next type of obstruction is known as a raised median through an intersection. So like the right-in, right-out island, a raised median through an intersection is a barrier which prevents left turns and through movements to and from a local street at an intersection with a major street. Their advantages are that they reduce traffic volumes on the local street, they improve intersection safety by removing conflicting movements, and when landscaped, they can improve the appearance of the street. Some disadvantages are that they can lead to a shift in traffic to other locations where left turns are permitted, and they may affect emergency vehicle access and response. So now I'd like to talk a little about landscaping. So as you have heard, landscaping is often recommended as an enhancement to many of the traffic calming features previously discussed. On the screen, you will see some images of various landscaping treatments used in conjunction with traffic calming measures. You can see how the landscaping improves the overall aesthetic on the street. So just a quick guide here. This picture obviously shows a little traffic circle with the landscaping in the middle. Same as this picture on the bottom right, that's a traffic circle. This image over on the left is a chicane. These two images in the middle show curb bulb outs. This one at all four locations. This one is just showing two corners. And this last picture, this is showing a raised median. So in addition, texture and color can also be used to enhance traffic calming measures. This slide shows examples of where texture and color were used in conjunction with traffic calming features. Typically, the texture and color provide clearer delineation and better visibility for various road users. So this image here, we can see, it's a little difficult to make out, but this crosswalk has like a different surface. It's probably stamped asphalt, and it's also, as I mentioned, colored differently from the rest of the road to make it more visible. This area here, I'm not entirely sure what the intent here is, but they've drawn in kind of a curb bulb out. So obviously, it's not going to physically prevent a driver, but it does, create a heightened awareness of this area, which I would guess is either a bus stop or just a pedestrian refuge. This image on the left shows how at this intersection, the corners are all shaded. It's difficult to see, but there are also flex delineator posts around the shaded areas between the roadway and the shaded areas. This is to reinforce the idea that vehicles should not park here or enter here, and that this area it's to provide a safe haven, a refuge for pedestrians who need to cross the street. This image shows a two-way bike lane, just in green to kind of contrast it to the surrounding travel lanes. And then lastly, this is an example of what I would consider a highly visible crosswalk. Lastly, I'd like to briefly talk about intersection traffic control. For unsignalized locations, increasing the number of stop-controlled approaches is often the first thought when it comes to reducing speeds or increasing safety. It should be noted that even though drivers will slow down or come to a complete stop, studies have shown that drivers often speed up mid-block to compensate for the delay of having to stop at a stop sign. So if there is a desire to install a stop sign on a state route, PennDOT requires the submission of an engineering and traffic study to justify the need for stop control. And typically, vehicular speeds by themselves are not considered justification. The primary considerations are traffic volumes and sight distance deficiencies. For roadways that are township-owned, there is typically a little more leeway in adding stop signs, as PennDOT does not have jurisdiction. However, an engineering and traffic study is still advisable in case the new intersection control is challenged in court or otherwise. Similarly, if there is an unsignalized intersection and there is a desire to signalize it, PennDOT approval will require a traffic warrant analysis. This analysis examines traffic volumes, as well as school, rail, and general safety conditions at the intersection. It should be noted that for signal warrants related to traffic volume data collected in the field must be used. Projected volumes, while perhaps indicating that future signalization is warranted, are not sufficient to warrant signalization now. It should also be noted that PennDOT makes the final determination on whether a signal is warranted or not, regardless of who maintains the roadway. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you for your time tonight. I will now hand you over to Chief Murciades, who will discuss the township's new proposed traffic calming policy and its implementation process.
Welcome. Anybody who's interested, there are plenty of seats up here unless you wanted to stand. Just letting you know. Nobody wants to sit up front, I know. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name's John Murciades. I'm the Chief of Police. I've been a police officer here for 37 years, and I've been a township resident for the last 30 years. So I do appreciate the problems. I live here, my friends and family live here, I shop here. So we certainly see the problem and we live the problem alongside you. I wanted to mention before I get started that you're going to see quite a few police officers here, and the reason I purposely had them here is I have my whole command team here. I have members of our highway patrol unit here. I just wanted you all to know that we're completely invested in the traffic calming, not just the policy and some of the things that we're doing here, but just in general, whether it's enforcement, whether it's visibility, whether it's just responding to any of your complaints or your concerns. It's a department-wide buy-in that clearly traffic in general, safety, congestion, volume, is a priority in Plymouth Township. I mean, we're that kind of community that we get a lot of transient traffic. So I wanted to just bring that to your attention. I wanted to share with you some of the measures that we've already established. We shifted more resources toward our highway patrol unit. Those are the people that strictly enforce traffic safety, in order to highlight the safety measures in the neighborhoods, manage traffic flow on the major arteries like Germantown Pike and Ridge Pike. As a result, because I do keep a lot of statistics, that's the way I get a chance to see what we're doing works and doesn't work, what we have to change. Our first quarter traffic details, and a traffic detail is basically setting up something with multiple officers and hitting an area for a while to take down speeds or stop sign violations. So the first quarter of this year, we've increased our traffic details by 832% over the same period last year. So we've absolutely made a concerted effort to put more of our energy into traffic safety. We've also, alongside Public Works, Council, and the manager, we've crafted a traffic calming policy, which is yet to be complete and approved, but it's all part of this whole policy of how we can do this in the best way that we can do this. And we've invested in, which is something that I'm going to show you, in a program called Urban SDK. We looked for a way that could better help us serve the community. So what it allows us to do is access real-time traffic data and analytics so we can better manage congestion and speeds. So I'm going to share with you some of the functions where we've drawn information from, and I'm going to give you some examples here with our highway officers they're going to go in there and do some live applications to show you how fast we can get information and exactly how that helps us. So this is one of the pieces of information we can get from Urban SDK. Even though this system wasn't initially designed to establish traffic volume, because we try to look at volume, congestion, and speeds, we were able to utilize this. We're able to determine average daily traffic counts on major highways, arterial roadways, local streets. Now, to be clear, which surprised me, I would imagine it surprised some of you, the technology that they have is so advanced that counting many of the older model cars is not being incorporated into data. It works off of Bluetooth and so forth. There's a lot of cars that haven't caught up to that technology yet. So the statistics that you see here reflect less than half of the actual volume of vehicles traveling our roadways. So as an example, our major highway access, those are just the exits coming off of the Blue Route into Plymouth Township and off the Northeast Extension. 36,000 vehicles a day, and what it's telling us is that's probably more than double that number, just coming off the exits. Our arterial roadways, which are our major ones, Germantown, Chemical, Ridge, you can see there, 79,000, which could realistically be more like 160, 170,000 vehicles. So it's alarming. It just shows you how much there is to deal with and what do you do with it. You know, it's nice to say, control the volume, control the congestion. It's there. You have to find ways to move it through. All the lights are controlled by PennDOT, the timing and so forth. So there's very little wiggle room you have with being able to control that. These are some of the other local roadways, and I put in some complaint areas, areas that we traditionally go to more often. So some of you might recognize. Our own road right here, Belvoir Road at the middle school, 6,000 vehicles a day it's showing us, which could very well be 10, 12, 13,000 vehicles a day. For a back road, that's a lot of traffic coming through there. We're also using this same data, volume data, to better assess the influence that some of the housing developments and office complex may have in the roadways. So we can't see what vehicles come out of these developments, but we can see the traffic in front of those developments. This system lets us break down. When we do Germantown Pike, we don't do the length of Germantown Pike. We take small segments so you can see where the flow gets heavier and less. So when you see some of these, here's one of our newest housing developments, it gives you an idea, the annual average daily traffic count from each one of the entrances from their location. And then as opposed to that, you go to some of the office complexes, the one right across the street here, Plymouth Green Office Complex, you have 14,000 vehicles a day. Now that is Germantown Pike, but that's what we're getting from that segment right in front of that office complex. So again, just gives us an idea so we know where to concentrate our efforts. Now, this is just something to show what the system actually does. It breaks things down for us. It gives us peak times. It gives us how many vehicles at a certain time of the day. So again, we can concentrate our efforts. If we know that there's significantly more cars, which might not be terribly difficult to figure out during rush hour, but it still breaks it down to a certain time period for us. If it tells us a certain day of the week and a certain time of the day that our efforts are better spent being in a location, I'd rather have an officer seen by 1,100 cars than 400 cars. I'd rather send him there on certain days of the week where it makes more sense than not. So this helps break that information down for us. And that just gives us peak amounts of people going through that time. So this one, for an example, is showing us the Plymouth Green Office Complex. This does the same thing for Plymouth Woods. We included this because this is an office complex that, for the most part, has been vacated. So you can see there's quite fewer vehicles passing on Plymouth Road, 6,000, and they have another entrance on North Gravers that's 1,000 vehicles. So you can see a little bit of the difference between an active office complex, which has 2 to 3 times more traffic than a defunct one. Now, I used, as far as speeds go, we used some examples. So there's certain areas in the township that we've had more difficulties than others, and so I decided to highlight some of those areas here. So this has to do with speeds. We can quickly determine the speeds, again, displaying the days of the week, times of the day that are most problematic. This one in particular is Elm Street in the area of Light Street. It takes a small segment. And what we did here was we did this over the course of 1 week, the data. Now, the data takes us a matter of 30 seconds to access, whereas the way we have been doing this, the only way that we had to do it, was we'd have to go out and put strips out. They'd have to be out there for at least a week. Then we'd have to bring them in. We'd have to gather it. They're expensive, so we only have one set, so you only do one location at a time. So to get this information, it would take us 8, 9 days easily just for this, as opposed to, you'll see in a minute, about 30 seconds we can access it, so we can hit multiple areas of the township, and it's information that helps us do our job better. So now I know that any of the residents from this area are going to say, well, that's not how fast people are going. This gives us averages. There are times of the day and days of the week, especially when there's youth sports going on in the area, that there's a higher volume and there's faster speeds and there's people going through stop signs. This gives us averages. But as we go through this system, it also breaks it down for us. And this is what I was discussing before. This is where it'll tell us specifically. I know it's a little bit difficult to see, but again, it breaks it down between peak hours and peak days, so we know when we want to be there to get the majority of speeders and the highest volume of people, so we know if they're going through stop signs. So I was going to take this opportunity with this to have our highway officers give us a live demonstration on how quickly you can access speed data. And we're going to use that Elm Street corridor at Light Street as an example. So you can see they've already started, they've gone into the system. Now, what they're giving you now, this information is updated, speeds are updated every 2 weeks. So I had showed you information that we got in a week-long period in March. What they're giving you is the latest 2 weeks. The data doesn't change that much, but we try to get the most recent information, which is good. If we had done a study, let's say 6 months ago, rather than use that same information, we can immediately go on there and get some fresh information. It also gives us both directions of travel. So if you have, for instance, when we use Elm Street, if we use the proving grounds there where people from all over the place, different states come, if they're coming predominantly through, let's say, Conshohocken, because they've got the major highways, there's some hotels there, we can know that we want to concentrate on that part of the roadway as opposed to people coming from the Norristown area where not as many people might access that on the weekend. And what Joe's been pulling up here, he had speeds, now he's pulling up volume for that area. So you can see what he's got there, 7,000 vehicles. And that's an average daily, Joe? 7,000 vehicles for that Elm and Light Street area. Yeah.
I think we're going to hold questions until the end.
It's just one question on the data. There's 1 mile per hour, which seems like an outlier. So I'm just wondering if you're doing a minimum and then removing those outliers to look at the full average.
Actually, we don't massage the data at all. So it gives you every vehicle that it can pick up. Again, like I said, you're only getting, in the case of speed, even though they're only picking up less than half the vehicles, since you're getting an average, it still gives you an accurate average, let's say within a mile or even less. It's when it comes to volumes that it's not as accurate, but that's not what it was designed for, but from what I understand, they're working on that. So, Joe, do you have an answer for that?
Yeah, we could break this program down to the 85th percentile. These are just, what I'm showing you here tonight is just the average speed over a period of a 3 or 4 hour segment. If we go into, let me bring it back up, the 85th percentile speed, as you can see, it changes the speed volume there for that particular segment. Again, if you break it down into segments, if we were to get down further down on the Elm Street and click on it and regenerate, you're going to see a different speed.
Which is actually one of the things that we like about this program, because it's not just, let's say, on Elm Street, you're saying, oh, you're showing me right here, and this is what the speed is. You go down, not even a quarter mile, and it's a completely different speed. And you realize, okay, they stopped at the stop sign, hopefully, and all of a sudden they take off. So it gives us a better idea, where do we want to concentrate our efforts? It tells us piece by piece. If you're able to get me back to my program, Joe. This is me? Okay, so I showed you that live application. I'm just using now Jolly Road as another location that we've done a lot of work at. So it gives you an idea again. Now this is Jolly Road at Beacon Hill. It's not at a stop sign, it's at that segment of roadway. And I was just talking to a gentleman that lives in that area, and he had even explained how, you get to a certain point and people pick up speed. So this gives us the opportunity. This is not to say by any means, Jolly Road, you don't have a problem. What it's saying is that at this segment, this is what we're finding. If we move down, again, less than a quarter mile, we might find a whole different issue. And that's what we're trying to research here. This is by no means trying to take the place or even dissuade people from calling us. This whole idea of a traffic calming policy is when you have a bigger issue or the neighborhood wants to get together and talking about physical barriers that they might want or something. But you can always call us with an issue. If you perceive that there's a problem, as far as we're concerned, that's a problem, and we'll be there. This is just to aid us into being able to do more and to be able to do it more efficiently. So this, again, just shows you how we can break down some of this information. And again, it does the same thing here. It gives us peaks. It lets us know the times a day, so we know when best, what day is best. I've had people call and say, you need to be here Thursday at 5 o'clock. But they're seeing something at Thursday at 5. Well, there might be a reason for it. We can look it up here and see that for some reason, speeds are higher. Who knows, maybe there's something after school. Maybe there's some activity in the area that there's more traffic or people are rushing. But this is what allows us to back up what they say and maybe even expand it more. Maybe they're seeing Thursday to 5, but we're seeing Wednesday through Friday from 4 to 6 that we want to get down there. So again, just an idea of how to help us. So one other thing that I wanted to do here to show you, again, we're going to do something live here. I wanted to use an alternate location from the opposite side of the township. So in this case, because I've also had some calls and we've had some dealings on the Sierra Road. That's been notoriously used as a cut-through from one area to the other. So Joe's going to pick that up. We wanted to show you how we can sit there when we compartmentalize the roads, that we can go from one section to the next to show how the volumes increase, to show exactly where the cut-throughs are. Like we're going to show you here how we can see that people that use that as a cut-through, the data shows you, and anybody that lives there knows this for themselves, that people are going up Blue Ridge to cut through to Butler Pike, as opposed to keep on going through the neighborhood and hitting more stop signs. But this shows us that type of thing. It shows us that all the volume is going there, and then the volume gets less as you go down Sierra Road some more. So, all right, so if you can see, what section are you on there?
Sierra at Blue Ridge.
All right, so Sierra Blue Ridge, you're talking 2,000 vehicles a day, right? We're talking a day? Okay, so if you go down the roadway, just tell them what road you're, or what segment.
Going further down Sierra towards Black Hill.
Now you're down to less than half.
And then if we bring it down further, to right before Shasta,
Now, you've halved it even more again. So again, if somebody calls from that area, I've got a problem, rather than one of our officers deciding on his own, oh, I'll just go sit here, this is a good location to catch people, the data tells us, no, we need you to go on this location during this time, because this is when you're gonna hit the most people. This is when the likelihood of more people running stop signs is gonna be. Because the idea of a cut-through, the roads are public, anybody can travel those roads. The problem is, you're getting much higher volumes, and you're getting people, if they're trying to get from one area to another, they're probably going too fast. They're probably going through the stop signs faster than they have to, because they're on a mission. They want to get home, they want to go somewhere. But you live there. What's that?
Can you get that speed right there on that Blue Ridge?
Can you get the speed in this one, because you're in volume, or do you have to go to a different? What was the location?
Blue Ridge, on Blue Ridge, right, and going towards Sierra.
Now, that's the average. Now, that does not to say that, but when we look at the, I don't know if you can enlarge it even more so we can see some of the speeds there. Some of the speed,
What's in the 95th percentile? Is that the ones that are way high?
I think the reason they use the 85th percentile is that's the established one that you use to get the best data if you're trying to get averages. But we still have that data available to us. But again, we're not seeing on this data that there's anybody doing exorbitant speeds. Again, I want to make it clear to everybody that that's not to say, if you call us and say people are going through here too fast, I'm not going to tell you, oh, we're not seeing that there's a problem, we're not coming there. Of course we're coming there. We'll always come there. This just gives us an idea of how to fine tune it to best solve your problem. Sometimes just having a police officer there with a car slows people down, makes them stop at stop signs. And if that's all that it takes, by all means, that's what we'll do. I just want to find out when are the most cars coming so the most people see us there. I'd rather the 2,000 see us than the 400 see us, because that's going to solve your problem more so. So that pretty much breaks down everything that we have here. This is the new system. We just got it, but we've already made a lot of headway on it. And we're trying to do more with what we have to better serve everybody.
If you have any questions, we're going to start collecting those. And then you're welcome.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, so I really want to commend our traffic engineer and our chief of police and all the officers, as well as our township staff, for the amount of work that they have put into not only this presentation, but in addressing traffic. And this new technology... And this new technology that the chief has discovered and signed us up for will save tremendous resources, both in personnel, putting them where they need to be at the times most effective, but also not having to sit out there and hand count and get speeds, because it's all there. And, Big Brother's always watching us. We have Bluetooth, and they know how fast we're going and where we're going. So I think that's really wonderful. We're going to start sorting these cars. And again, this presentation, because it's a lot to take in, will be on our website. So you can see these again. You can do screenshots of the ones that you want, and you can always, always call our police or our township with your questions or problems. So so here's one, and I think a number of people have asked this one. We're going to do live questions later. We're going to take the written questions first. So one of the things, and a number of people have asked this, is can we use traffic cameras? This, I think, will go to the chief. Have we ever considered it? Are we able to do it? Oh, and we have microphones, Chief, if you don't want to hop up and down. If you want to hop up and down.
Thank
Hi,
you.
excuse me.
Actually, that's been brought up before, and you cannot use traffic cameras. Traffic cameras are, PennDOT delineates where this can be used on Turnpike and so forth. I think the only place that actually has PennDOT's permission to use it is Roosevelt Boulevard, I believe it is. And of course, there's good reason for that. But I mean, people have asked us about the red light cameras and the speed cameras, and it's not an option, unfortunately. It sounds like it'd be great, but and PennDOT is king. When they say no, good luck. But
Have you done these?
go ahead.
Just to pick up on that, I realize that state legislation is necessary for speed cameras, and Roosevelt Boulevard has it, and I think the city of Philadelphia, according to the legislation, is allowed 5 routes total in the city limits to post speed cameras. But why not get started on that and have our state representatives and the state representatives of surrounding townships where speeding is a problem, such as White Marsh and East Norton, that share Ridge Pike and Germantown, from moving on that
So you're doing
legislation
it by
and
question
getting
or
the
by area?
legislation passed. I realize that we cannot do that by ourselves now, but in the future, maybe we will be able to. And I have personal experience with speed cameras as affecting my behavior because in 2013, silly me, I took a road trip through France, and 3 months later, got 5 speeding tickets in the mail. And the next year, I was very...
Okay, but I think we have answered the question about the cameras, okay? Because, again, we're going to have a live question and live comment time, but I want to be able to get to everybody's questions. And thank you. I mean, I appreciate, the city and Europe and all, but we really want to move on here. And so, what's that? Okay, so this is a question that either maybe Chris or the chief can answer about the traffic.
Traffic calming guidelines on the sides of the road.
Yeah, the traffic calming guidelines, and I think we've painted them on the side of the road, and crossing at the GPCC. Chief, is that something, or Chris, I think, Public Works has taken care of some of the painting of the lines to narrow the look of how wide is Jolly Road? He said that I'm not quite sure what the question was about. In the 25 years, the traffic and courtesy has been terrible even toward pedestrians, and the GPCC puts people at risk, speeding. Well, I think the chief did address the speeding on Jolly Road, and certainly if there are areas that you have particular concern about, especially that crosswalk, which we did get repainted, thanks to the Public Works, to help people.
I can tell you one there because I'm there 3 days a week. When you come out of the northern exit, right, there's a curve coming in the opposite direction, and people speed up on that curve, and you come out there at a normal rate of speed, and all of a sudden somebody is blowing the horn at you like you just ran across the expressway.
Okay. Okay, and then this question is, are the older vehicles speed counted? And I think the chief answered that. If your vehicle's not equipped with Bluetooth, then, the old clunkers are, speeding. But again, they're taking into account the fact that we do have older vehicles on the road, and we do know that the traffic volume is greater than what is being shown. And I don't know if older cars go faster, I don't know. I drive a 2010. I think it has Bluetooth. what do you have here?
Questions about some of the processes.
Okay, so we have questions here about signage and how do we request signage? And we are going to, we have this one pager for you to take with you as how we plan to go through this. But the traffic calming policy, and maybe Chief, you can explain a little bit better, or maybe Matt, you can explain it, how this is going to work. If you as a resident in a particular area want us to start something, how is it going to work? And we're very close to developing that process. Matt, do you want to take it first, or? Sure. Thank you.
I'll project.
Here you go.
Okay, I'll try that.
Well, the reason for the
break in the
microphone
place.
is so that the questions and the answers can all be heard for the people who are going to be watching it, including, I'm sure, some of you. There was a lot to take in. You might want to see some of this presentation again of the different types of chicanes and bump outs and speed bumps and humps and all of that.
Thank you. Yeah, so it was a lot of information. I think I saw some hair blowing back here a little while ago because it's a lot of information, a lot of data thrown at you. I just wanted to emphasize that all of this data, all of these presentations will be saved on the website. It's on that one sheeter that was distributed at the door, plymouthtownship.org/traffic calming. We are in the process of developing an application form that will connect to this traffic calming policy, something that is quick and easy, that will enable us staff to then review your requests, process that, and communicate effectively with you. We don't have that developed yet. We're finalizing our traffic calming policy right now. We need to have that policy set in place first before we then process that, that standardization of a form. What you got? What are the factors you are using to prioritize implementing calming measured by neighborhood? Which neighborhoods will be focused on first and why? Process-oriented. The missing link tonight is that traffic calming policy. It was not ready for showtime tonight, which is why we're not showing it to you. A draft of that policy is uploaded on that website if you want to peruse it. There are a lot of details included in that as well, including what is the 85th percentile? What are the roads that we can control? What are the roads we cannot control? That will make a lot more sense once you read through that policy. So it's really going to be an interaction between you, the requestor, and us, the staff. Really, the folks who are going to be doing most of the heavy lifting will be the police department. They have access to this data set in coordination with Public Works, in coordination ultimately with our traffic engineer, define the issue, communicate effectively with the residents who are making that request, establish whether or not it is eligible. If yes, what are the steps forward for us to then implement it? And so those are the things that are to be remaining that we haven't been able to pull together for tonight. And in the near future, we will have those available to you, including that application form.
Can I follow up on this question? Are you going to open up the policy for public comment?
I don't believe that was the intention.
And then what is the timeline for having that finalized?
I'm hoping before the month is over.
Okay.
Yep. It's gonna be soon. It's gonna be soon. Oh yeah, this month. Yes, it is up there. It's gonna be approved. We ready to approve it? Kidding.
One more question. For areas that have been, coming to town council for the past over, year and a half, potentially 2 years, are we gonna have to reapply that and go through the portal, or will the township take into account that citizens have been advocating for this for a while and kind of just grandfather that in?
Good question. And we're going to have everyone go through the process once it's established. Yep, we're not trying to make it complicated. We just want that record to then prioritize one request over another request.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Matt. And we do have a request here. They want a one-page chart that for Peter O'Halloran's presentation of all the different, I don't know that you could put all those pictures on one page, but that describes the various traffic calming options. You know, all of the street paintings, the horizontal deflection, the vertical deflection. I didn't even know some of that existed. And I don't know if anyone saw on Facebook what they did in one town where they just painted a bunch of snake lines going down. It's at Montgomery Township. I don't know how it's working out, but if people are actually following that.
Karen,
Yes?
there in the PennDOT traffic calming manual, there is, on page 25, there is a table. It doesn't show images of the various traffic calming techniques, but it does list them, and then it kind of ranks them on what they're good at and what they're not good at, so it's a pretty convenient guide. So I'd encourage you to check that out.
Okay, and where do they find that, Peter?
The PennDOT Pennsylvania Traffic Calming Handbook. It's in my presentation, and you can find it online. It's also known as PennDOT Publication 383.
Okay, and so if you can find that online and have your own one-pager, that thank you very much. Here's one, so that answers that one, and are we working with our neighboring townships for the shared roads? Well, you know, in our township, we have state roads, county roads, and township roads. As Mr. O'Halloran said, the township roads we have the most control over. When it comes to some things like signs and signals, well, with signals, that's PennDOT. We have to have PennDOT buy-in on that one.
Karen, I'm sorry, that was my question, clarification. I was asking more Conshohocken and White Marsh to share roads. And so
Right.
That's what I was asking.
Oh, okay.
Are we having those conversations around traffic calming? with the roads?
So maybe, I don't know if it's the chief or our township manager can answer, what can we do with shared roads if they're speeding from, I mean, if they're speeding in one place, they're speeding wherever they can get away with it, right?
Actually, it is something we do, and I won't out him, but the chief of Conshohocken is hiding in the audience. And we have worked together, and we continue to work together on that New Elm Street corridor where we do blitzes, we do the length of it. And we do try and get into relationships with the other departments. Unfortunately, this is one area where absolutely Plymouth and Conshohocken would make a difference in that area. Some of the other areas that we border other townships aren't as problematic. One would probably be Arch Road right here with Plymouth and East Norton could easily do something. And we are in those conversations. Coordinating resources, manpower sometimes is difficult, but we'll have to do a better job. But yes, that's absolutely something that can and is to an extent being done.
All right, thank you, Chief. And here's a question about the speeding on Ridge Pike in the area where all the auto dealerships are located. And they want to know if we can put speed bumps on Ridge Pike. I believe that's a state road.
That might be, it's not Ridge Pike I'm referring to.
This one refers to the auto dealers on Ridge. Oh,
I'm referring to
Oh, okay.
the dealers on Ridge Pike, but I'm talking about the Gallagher Raceway and the Graver Speedway.
okay. And so the concern is that perhaps the auto dealerships are participating in speed, in allowing their potential customers to speed on Gallagher and Graver's Lane. If there's a specific issue with speeding on those roads, then that's certainly something that the police can look that up with the new software and address that.
I've asked frequently to have speed checks at either end of the Donner Drive in the Oakwood development, specifically because Saturdays in particular, it's a speedway.
Okay, so what we are able to do now is with this new software that our chief discovered and signed us up for, with that software and with the petition process that we have, you can now request, and rather than having somebody sit out there all day on certain days, they can, as you saw live, they can find out when is the best time to actually put a patrol car and uniformed officers, because just putting a car out there will slow down a lot of people. And that will be the best uses of resources. So when you have particular streets in your neighborhood, you can,
Well, the other thing that I asked for there is if they can install speed blinds
Well, again, those can be the types of things in your petition. They can study it, and there will be objective means by which they decide what will best slow down the traffic in that area. And also keeping in mind that taxpayer money is going to be involved in whatever we do decide to do. So finance will be a consideration as well. This policy is not going to be kind of like a first come, first serve. They're going to analyze the data and see what's the most critical need to do something now in this area, and what can we best do in that area. Okay, go ahead. You've got a mic.
I actually have quite a few cards that were put in front of me here, so I'll try and, one person asks about truck traffic on Valley Road. And some of these things, you can always contact the police to ask the questions. Something like that, we can certainly look into it. It's a township road. I know that for the most part, I don't see cut-through traffic of trucks. I do see a lot of people in that neighborhood utilizing the services of those trucks for construction, for lawn care, and I know it's difficult to get around them. That's one of the reasons they're there. If you were to look at something like this policy and ask for it, it is going to ask you to talk to your neighbors first, because we actually do have people, and usually they contact us anonymously, or they don't want to come out and say anything, that are not in favor of curtailing some of these things. So I certainly wouldn't want to be the one to make some of those decisions, but if it's ever a hazard, or if they're going against signage, absolutely we would address that. Another card that I got here that I would just like to mention, it has to do with the crosswalk on Colonial Middle School on Belvoir, and it gives some possible solutions to making it safer, and they're good suggestions. But what I will say to people, because a lot of times they'll ask, what do you think about putting a stop sign here? What do you think of that? I don't like to get outside of what I'm trained to do. I don't pretend to know things that I'm not trained in. So these are the types of things that by all means we would forward to our traffic engineer and get a professional opinion, but I don't think that it's a good idea to ever arbitrarily do anything because you think it's a good idea, and then something tragic happens, and somebody's going to ask, what was the reason for this, and how are you qualified to do that? So all good suggestions, but we would have to do it in the proper way and give it to the proper people for a professional opinion. Yes?
I don't know if that was my question.
It was.
All right, so can I explain what happened? It was a near miss, and it involved almost a child being killed. I was the driver, and what happened was, it was during school time, I was going 15 miles an hour coming up the street. Now there's this lane that's the car lane, okay? At the corner where the crosswalk is, was a huge SUV. As I'm approaching the crosswalk, I can't see the corner. All of a sudden, this little girl, about 10, 12 years old, comes running across the street with the dog, and by the grace of God, my trip was 5 seconds slower. 5 seconds, I would have been in the crosswalk as she came running out. She never saw me, I never saw her. I was slow enough and far enough away that I hit my brakes and I was able to stop. And I saw her eyes. I'll never forget those eyes, and she'll probably never forget my eyes. And like I said, by the grace of God, I didn't hit her. That's the kind of problem now at that crosswalk.
No, a good suggestion, and all I'm saying is I think we need to do it in the proper fashion, give it to the proper people, and that will be something that right now, I'm going to forward to be looked at.
Thanks, Chief. There were a couple of questions about the process for dealing with state roads, and Mr. West is going to answer those questions.
Thank you, Lynn. So state roads, if you live on a state road, what is the process for having a traffic study conducted? And I live on Johnson Road. Can the council help me with traffic on state roads? Specifically, we are seeking an all-way stop at the intersection of Johnson Road and Whites Road. Through this new policy and process, we will entertain all requests. Start there. Start with that application. Therefore, we will then decide whether or not it's a state road, if it's a county road, or if it's a local road. If it's a state road, filling out that form and submitting that to us gives us more leverage to have that conversation with the state to act on your behalf. So the simple answer is use the application that will be posted to the website soon to initiate that process.
Okay, we have a couple of questions that really are directed towards our engineer, so we're going to let him take those answers.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, and we will have some time for some live questions if you haven't written anything down yet.
Okay, so this first question is, can we use more physical traffic calming methods beyond just road paint? I would say yes, we can. So moving forward with the new process the township has, I would imagine we will see more physical traffic calming features. And then the person also commented, even just flex posts could go much further. So yes, I agree. You know, the township will employ whatever methods are needed. So, yeah. Okay, next question. Can we have a speed bump that only affects speeding cars on a speed bump, or a speed bump that can be lowered by emergency vehicles? I'm open to correction, but I'm not aware of such a speed bump. I think currently the best practice is to use the speed cushions that they were the second item that I spoke of. If you recall, that's like a speed bump, but with gaps in the middle, so that vehicles with wide axles, such as emergency vehicles, they can kind of blow through the speed hump without having to stop.
So that was my question.
Yeah.
And the reason why I brought it up is because I did see, I don't know where it's being used, but there's other materials being used for speed bumps, so if you go a certain speed, it doesn't affect your car. But if you go faster, it's the non-Newtonian fluid.
Oh, okay.
So if you go faster, then it does affect you, but if you go slower, it just doesn't.
Well, you've educated me. Thank you. I'll certainly look into that. That sounds very interesting and futuristic. Okay, what is the minimum width a street can be? Off the top of my head, typically a 10-foot travel lane is the minimum travel lane. So most townships have a minimum of 20 foot for their cartway. I mean, ideally you'd have a little bit more than that, but I would say 20 feet is the minimum width of a street. And what can we do to promote pedestrian development? I think just provide the infrastructure, you know, trails and bike paths and stuff like that. And I think, as I mentioned, some of these traffic calming features lend themselves naturally to that. So I think it's not something that can change overnight, but I think overall the township would need to be a township policy when they plan their development and when they question developers coming in and the type of developments they want to do. That's the time to, I guess, get the pedestrian facilities, to conceive of them and have them installed. So, does that answer your question? Yes. All right, thank you.
We had a question about the cut-through roads. And I think this person was commenting and saying, when we opened the meeting, we talked about the fact that people are going through stop signs, passing school buses. And, you know, is that really the issue? Like, are residents the issue, or are those things issues? And we want to be clear, those things are issues to us because they impact residents. So residents have come to us and said, there's a stop sign in front of my home, and people go through it. They don't stop. At best, they roll through it. When I take my children to the bus stop, we have people flying around buses who are stopped with lights on and their stop sign out. So it's not that those things are more important than the residents, but we are addressing those things on behalf of residents who've raised those issues to us. And certainly if there are other issues, then we're all ears.
I've complained before, Green Charger guy disappeared on Johnson Road, Biden. But Plymouth and Johnson, stop signs, since I came and talked about that, I know there's been an accident. I watch cars blow through. But I use the cut roads all the time. I mean, so if we start doing this all over the cut roads, that does impact probably every single person trying to get to the other side of the township. So if you want to put a speed bump at every stop sign, go for it. But I wouldn't want to see all over the place, right? Every cut, like, that's where some of the data, it's not just volume. There are instances where the volume might be low, that people are really egregiously doing whatever. So, I mean, there's that aspect that goes with this, I think, in general, that needs some discussion after policy.
I wanted to address that specifically because you reminded me to give an idea what the police department can do. In the case that you're bringing up, when you say the green Charger disappeared, well, actually our highway patrol sergeant, utilizing the cameras, was able to find out, I think he zeroed in on the license plate, found out who it was, went to his home, had a discussion with him, so it didn't disappear. He, you know, it was addressed, he was talked to, and he was explained that your neighbors are also complaining what you're doing. So these are some of the, you know, you can do things that aren't technological, you know, there's other things. The problems don't just stop, you have to find other ways to do it. And I will, Mr. Pressy, I will keep an eye on Belvoir for you.
Follow up on the comment that he said about the volume correlating with speed. I know your study shows that higher volume is where you're going to focus a lot of your attention, but sometimes the higher volume actually reduces the speed in the infractions. Sometimes when you have a lower volume, people tend to get the left foot out a little bit more. So instead of just concentrating, I know manpower is important to correlate to the higher volume peak times, but when it's slower, that's when they go faster. And that's what I, you know, Saturday, Sunday, Belvoir Road, speedway. Speedway. Because there's not that much traffic.
And you know what? No, that's good information. That's a good point, and we'll utilize this. I mean, having somebody say it is good enough, but now we can further tune it down to what time on Saturday, and we'll start. I just want to make sure that I don't mislead people thinking that now that we have this, we can address all these problems. Resources are still limited, and there's a lot of problem areas. So don't think that because we're not there, we've decided you don't have a problem. That's not the case. You can never call too often. You can always get me. You can get any of our highway people, command people. We will make sure we get there, but it might not be enough. It might not be soon enough. I apologize for that, but I'm also trying to be honest to let you know that that's the reality.
So when you have the stop signs that like people don't even see them at all, they're not paying attention, they're not familiar, can we do a blinking light or something to make it more visible?
I mean, again, that's something that I would probably consult the engineer with, because even if I think it's a good idea, that's not my expertise. But I think it's a good idea, but I'd like to find out from somebody, say, oh, no, you can't do that, or that's, you know, that's...
On that software you have, I notice you guys keep coming back to, and I talk to them all, they talk about average speed. I don't care about your average speed. I care about the highest percentile of people like on Jolly Road. I don't care about people doing 30, 35 miles an hour. It's people doing 50, 55 miles an hour that are the problem.
And we do have that capability. That 95th percentile is in there, which is higher.
It's the high-end speed.
Mm-hmm.
Because my truck was totaled when I made a mistake trying to turn into my driveway. Right? And a guy made a right, passed me on the right, and I've been dealing with back issues for the last 15 months. It doesn't happen. So I don't care about people doing 30, 35, it's the 50, 55 mile an hour people that are really a problem. That, honestly, that's what you should be looking at when you do your traffic studies and the traffic calming. Those are problems, not the 30, the average.
We do have the capability, and at least as far as the police department is concerned, we still want to hear. So I would, you know, I heard from you that you don't have to call me again. I got you. But please call us and let us know so that then we can dive deeper and look into that. Did you want me to address some of these?
Yeah, a few of them were police-related. For example, children on electric bikes, and I'm not sure whether there are any laws or anything that govern children on electric bikes.
I mean, actually, we've had complaints before, kids on bikes in the street, and the truth of the matter is they're not allowed to be on the sidewalk. It's a vehicle, it has to be in the street. I know as a parent, it scares me, it's dangerous, especially what street they might be on, but technically, even though I would never tell a kid to get off the sidewalk if that's where he's riding his bike, technically they're not supposed to be on the sidewalk. That's for the pedestrians to walk. I mean, if they're speeding, we could certainly address it. I don't know how fast those electric bikes go. But we do, and now, of course, we've had to deal with kids and older people that if we try to stop them, more and more people today are just taking off. We're not chasing anybody because, God forbid, somebody gets hurt. I'd rather let them go. But the truth of the matter is, they're not stopping. But we will certainly address it and keep an eye out if that's... That's dangerous, yeah.
Like, it's usually the community center's closed, and they're zooming down Jolly Road at like 9:30, 10 o'clock. If I can just say something regarding Kristen and painting on Jolly Road, I've been on Jolly Road for 25 years, and the traffic, you know, the speeding to the light and all that, but also coming out of the community center. I've seen people who are literally pedal to the metal, coming out of the center, zipping on. Stop sign needs to be at the center to stop. People need to regard that. But on Sunday, I happened to see a boy who was riding his bike on Jolly Road from Germantown. No bike lanes. He must have been 9 or 10 years old, and luckily, the driver who was passing him was cautious of him. But the paint on Jolly Road in the area that has disappeared, the slowdown has disappeared. I firmly believe in the traffic shortening the width of the road, darker shades. I think that is fantastic. Things like that can really help to slow down and narrow what the idea people think they can do. But, I mean, I've seen all kinds of fun things. I was making a left into my driveway, and someone was passing me on the left.
I've had that happen 3 times on Butler Pike, and believe me, they're going 50, 60 miles an hour. And if you're not watching, and there's a breakdown lane, they could pass me on the right, but they choose to pass me on the left as I'm making a left.
Yes, I mean,
So it's very dangerous, I agree.
It is. And the thing is, I mean, I think we're all so concerned about our neighborhoods and what we're dealing with, and things have to, are we supposed to be telling you our stories? What do you want us to do?
Well,
What do you want us to do?
what I want you to do, because I have a lot of cards here about specific neighborhoods, Key Street, Elm Street, Ridge Pike, between Butler and Chemical. We are very soon, because it's near ready to vote on, but we wanted input from all you guys tonight in case we need to tweak this traffic calming policy. Council will vote on it, and we will approve it. We've seen the draft. We've made our comments. It's been, those comments have been taken into account. There will be a process, but regardless of where you live and regardless of what the issue is, you will have a step-by-step process. You can set it forth in your neighborhood, what's going on, when it's going on, and between the police and our township manager and public works and finance, we're going to address that and come up with it. You know, a single speeder when there's not much traffic causing a horrible accident like happened to this gentleman just trying to get in his own driveway and now has back problems he never had. A single person being bad at a given time is pretty hard to take care of beforehand unless we can do these things like force that person not to be going that fast and passing somebody who all they want to do is turn in their driveway, and it's like, you know, oh my gosh, I have to get home. Why are you going in your driveway? You know, well, I'm already home, that's why, but, you know, that man's suffering as a result. So we have, I'm sorry, we have a few more questions.
To address the traffic calming lines, and then we had a question.
Okay, and also there's another question for the chief about the no-through traffic, so he's going to handle that.
I'm very popular today. I have a lot of cards here.
Okay.
Just an issue of the traffic calming lines that were painted on Jolly Road. That was one of the easiest ways to make people slow down, or at least to try to, because experience has shown that when roads are made narrower, people usually take their time to weave around as opposed to when it's wide and they can take off. We will take a look at those lines because my understanding is that maybe some of the lines are fading, and then of course it defeats the purpose. So any place, but that's always a good first solution to a lot of these problems. It's a simple solution and a very effective one, but we will check. Tony, you got that, Jolly Road? All right, good. And then there was one of the cards that was left here for me. I just wanted to address that. It said that there are several neighborhoods that are designated as no-through traffic, local traffic only by the township code. I mean, I've mentioned this before. There is no legitimate such thing as that. We cannot enforce that. All roads are public. Anybody can drive through any road unless it's in a a actual private development that is not a township road, that you have your own trash pickup and your own plowing, and that's your private property essentially for that development. I know that signs have been put up. I've been asked about them. I said, I won't say you can't, but I want to make it clear we cannot enforce anything like that. If people choose to obey those signs and not go down that road, that's fine, but that's not legitimate, that there is no local road. Anybody, even if it's a cul-de-sac, unless it's 2 or 3 in the morning and somebody's driving around that cul-de-sac, yes, we will come and find out why they're there. But if they want to look at the homes, or they like the area, or they want to sit and have their lunch, they can. So I just wanted to make sure that people understood that that's not something we can do. If for any reason you think it's suspicious, by all means, you call us. We would always check that out.
Thank you. And we have some questions that are going to our township manager. And it looks like we are going to have time for live questions, so go ahead, Matt. Oh, sure you can.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I have a couple of questions here that really hit home for me and is personally, philosophically, an interest of mine, and they both have to do with making it more pedestrian friendly. Personally, I believe that traffic calming is often solved by increasing pedestrian activity. There's nothing like being as a pedestrian street side to see how things actually work. I always go and look at things from the pedestrian level. So I've got 2 questions here. Will school zones and park zones be prioritized, or other areas for interventions? Yes. Because why? Because that's people-based. It's people-based, right? Next one is, are there any plans to make bike lanes, or, quote, share the road in the township? With the exception of Cross County Trail, we do not have bike lanes. Yes. That is also another key, right? And that kind of piggybacks on what Chief was just saying. If you use Jolly Road as an example, there is so much cartway there, and it's just 2 lanes, that you can reduce that by increasing bike lanes, put people on the roads. When there are more things on the roads, driving behavior tends to start coming down. The closer you can bring structures to the roadway, speeds, volume go down. So the easy answer, yes, of course. Always want to focus on the pedestrian and increase bike ped facilities.
Is that, so before your time, with the 2040 workshops we all did about bike lanes, is that going to be?
Yes.
Together?
Yeah. Comp plan, all of the comp plan. That's a big challenge for this township. We are an auto-centric township. This was built for the automobile, and it's a pass-through, as we've said ad nauseum tonight. So how can we reclaim our roads? How can we pedestrianize them? And how can we make it work for us? All right? Indeed.
Okay, we did have a few questions about development and how that contributes. And as I mentioned, we're not going to address those tonight, but we are going to have a town hall on development, and you will be able to come in and voice your opinions about development, commercial, residential. What are we doing with our blighted areas? We know we have one, and it's being developed. So, we're in a changing time between commercial, business, and our township has commercial, business, light industrial, more heavy industrial like steel mills, and residential areas. We think of ourselves as a residential community, and we are, and we have residential neighborhoods, and we're, surrounded by these other things. And as I also said, all the different types of roads that we have. There was one question here that I wasn't quite sure, none of us is, so if the person doesn't mind outing themselves, only because we're not familiar with these, that there are areas in our township that are designated as quiet zone. And why do we have some streets with signs that say quiet zone? I haven't come across it. Maybe some of you, Chief, or someone is aware of what that means, or where they're located. Yes?
No.
What?
If I knew where that was, I'd go there. But
I know the SEPTA has quiet cars, and you're not allowed
Area
to-
behind Mission Barbecue is a quiet zone?
That residential area behind there is designated as a quiet zone. The businesses on that area have to shut down at a certain time, and it's all regulated for that whole neighborhood.
Oh,
Okay,
okay. I didn't know that.
it could be. I didn't realize. Thank you for making me look foolish.
Is that your question?
Hi, this is for the police chief. We live on Woodbrook Lane, and we have a problem with a certain house, and the kids have all these big diesel trucks. You've been called before, and nothing ever happens. What can we do? We even got told that they live there, and still nothing happens. There are skid marks in front of my neighbor's houses.
Is it the, I mean, I'm not personally familiar, I'm sure the highway officers are. Is it a matter of dangerous speeds or the noise or everything?
Combination of everything.
Okay.
And we even know that the parents are divorced and the father doesn't live there, he's a police officer for another township. We don't know if that's the reason why nothing's happening.
No, I mean, but we've had, no, that's not, I will tell you that if we don't witness some of these things ourselves, then what we would need, and I know it's sometimes difficult when you're dealing with a neighbor, for the person that's saying, I heard this or I saw this at this time and date, that they would have to be put onto the citation as the person who would go to court to say they saw it. If the officer sees it, then it's not necessary. Then we can act as that witness. If you don't mind afterwards, I'll get the address from you, I'll look it up, and we'll get on that tomorrow. Okay.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, you know what, when we do the live questions, we're going to have to bring the microphone out here. And the only reason I'm saying that is so that people who watch this later who couldn't come tonight, I don't want them not to be able to hear the questions. So we'll bring the microphone out there for the live questions and for follow-ups. I'm just thinking of the people who are going to be watching this later and won't be able to hear what y'all have been asking. So we're going to break for, not break, but we're going to move to live questions pretty quickly, okay? And we'll pass the microphone around. But, I mean, you know, we've been doing it, and I just am starting to think I could barely hear from the back of the room, so I know the microphones weren't picking it up for the other people. But Lynn has a question she would like to answer.
The question is, what are some of the traffic calming strategies you've come up with to help with the roadways used for emergency response roads? Because we do in the township have certain roads designated as emergency response roads. And well, there's not a short answer. I mean, first of all, if we did an assessment and found that a particular area required a traffic calming strategy, we could consider many of the things that we discussed today, which would not necessarily impact emergency vehicles, like traffic calming lines don't impact emergency vehicles. If we got to a point where we thought some kind of speed hump, speed bump, speed slot, some other kind of solution was warranted, there are ones that are more favorable and friendlier to emergency vehicles, like speed slots, for example, which kind of go, instead of across the road, they go this way on the road. And if you're driving in a car, you're likely to catch them. If you're driving in a wide-wheeled emergency vehicle, you're not. So there are some solutions that we would consider under those circumstances, but emergency roads do require sort of their own special attention because of their nature. Does that make sense?
Okay, I don't think we have any more. Oh, wait. Oh, did you want to take that one, Lynn? I didn't know if you wanted that one as well. The criteria for eligible streets does not mention volume or cut-through or pedestrian use safety. Are those out of scope? I don't think anything is out of scope. I mean, depending on what your problem is, if you feel that, I think the petition process, if I'm not mistaken, is going to take into account, what is the problem that you're experiencing that you would like us to address and find the best solution. So if your problem is cut-through or your problem is congestion and volume, then we will look at it as that kind of an issue. And I think Mr. O'Halloran, presented some of the ways that you address speeding versus how do you make a street unpleasant to go down? And then, of course, the problem is, I'll just choose the next street over and it'll become your problem. But I think there are people who had questions that have come up, and I want to take this gentleman here that I cut off first, so he can ask his live question, and then whoever on our panel feels best able to answer it can do so. And I apologize for cutting you off, but I wanted to make sure your question could be heard.
I'm Mike Burkowski. I live on Sandwood Road in Pastel. Okay. Chief, I saw you sitting there. I didn't want to out you. My brother's the chief of police at Ambler. Here's what I say, and you're not going to like this. I don't think they respect that they're going to get caught. Now, the other day, I pull out of my driveway on Sandwood, head towards, and a girl come whipping through on the Pastel, never stopped the stop sign. I blew my horn. If I don't stop, I got a new hood ornament on my truck. Drive through Conshohocken at 25 miles an hour. Guy comes by me like this, like full blown. And so, but what I'm saying is, our governor right now, Josh, is from Montgomery County. He's got to have friends here to get this camera BS taken care of. Because in all honesty, I see Billy sitting sometimes on my street there, but they see him he's there. He can only be there for whatever shift and if he has to leave. And the cars stop. But when I go down to Sandwood to try to make a left on the Caldwell to go to Superfit, I can't pull out because the cars come flying down past that stop sign there, okay? But they don't care because you can't put a guy there at every intersection. I got that. So this camera thing has got to be the solution because there's no other way that you're going to know what's going on. Yeah, you can put your charts and your graphs and all that other BS up here, but that's not doing us any good, and it's not doing you any good. Now, the other day, about a month ago actually, my wife's driving up Ridge Pike. Guy decides to make a left heading towards Norristown on the 476. Remember I talked to you? Right. Friday night, what happened Friday night? Massive accidents there Friday night. This guy tried the same tactic. And you're telling me PennDOT is in charge of the intersection. Well, PennDOT, this almighty PennDOT, you guys can't get them to do something. I don't understand. Like, I got that they're bureaucratic BS. I understand that. But talk to Josh. His big thing is GSD. All right. Well, Josh is our governor, and he's from here. I mean, he's our commissioner and everything. Half of us know him. I'll call him. But what I'm saying is, this other stuff, I don't think it's going to work. You can put all the pretty pictures you want on the streets and put a dent in the street. That ain't going to work because everybody looks at it as a challenge, and they come flying through. I can't tell you how many times on Caldwell Lane, I come home yesterday from coaching. I go to make a left on Caldwell. On the Sandwood, 2 cars go blowing through at the stop sign in front of me. And so I think the cameras, you got to get on the cameras because people don't respect anything here. I mean, that's just the way I look at it. And they don't belong in this township, so they don't care. You know, that's just my thought.
Okay, thank you. All right, so you had a question?
No, I don't disagree with anything the gentleman said. I will tell you, though, that in reality, you can ask any of the residents from New Elm Street how easy it is to deal with PennDOT, even with our state representative and with the governor being from this area. It's been years for the simplest thing, and you get a lot of talk, but you get very little service. And then I use radar, which Pennsylvania is the only state in the country that does not let police officers other than state troopers use radar, and that's been debated for decades with no resolution. So we get frustrated having to depend on them, and we keep petitioning them, but I've been here for 37 years and none of that's changed, and it was like that for 37 years before me. A lot of the things you say are true. I see it all the time. There is no respect. There is no fear for doing the things that they do. I can tell you that I've seen a massive increase. We keep our record for fleeing and eluding. People just don't stop for us. They take off. And we're limited. So they know we can't chase them. They know that there's no repercussions for what they do, whether they're in a car, a motorcycle, a bicycle. They just take off for the simplest things. And not because they have a warrant out for their arrest, just because they know they'll get away with it if they don't stop. And it's very frustrating and difficult for anybody who lives here and for us, because sometimes you feel helpless, like you can't do too much. So, no, you don't want to be vigilantes. No vigilantes allowed. That's a township ordinance. All right. Anyway, I do acknowledge what you're saying, and we're going to keep looking for different things to do, but it's tough when people just don't listen, and I can't force them. I can't chase them down. I can't. And the camera ID is a good one. We're still working on that, but if Philly is the only place that has limited ones, I think we'd be way down on the list, even if that did become.
What would actually, who would actually stop you from putting up a camera? And just get you caught doing it and then going through it?
I mean, that's not something. Well, we'd open up the township to liability, and even though I think it might be a prudent thing to do, I wouldn't do anything that wasn't legal and proper, because that's the rules that I play by. But I see what you're saying. I understand your frustration, but it's just not a legitimate alternative.
Fake cameras.
All right, we have a question right here.
Just a quick question about the petition process, Joe Salvia. So it says 70% of specifically affected properties. So does the website define what specifically affected means? Is it, within 2 houses of the intersection, or what? How do we determine who's?
Yeah, the policy's going to spell out who, define, that's a defined term, and that's why it's in bold. So it will talk about the generally affected and the specifically affected numbers of people, and that'll all be defined for you. It's a, I don't know how many pages it is, but it's modeling itself after the state, so that whatever we're doing, and we go through this whole process, we've satisfied state requirements, so that we don't have to start over again dealing with the state. This gentleman here had a question.
Yeah, back on the cameras, but I know you said that you can't put up speed cameras, but what about red light cameras, particularly for many, many places where rolling stops are the mode of transportation? And I'll give you one prime example is on Plymouth Road at Germantown Pike. I'm stopped in the morning there across from a sandwich shop, and in the course of the red light, I watched 14 cars in a row go through the light without stopping until a car was coming through on Germantown Pike and almost hit one of them. And that's a common practice at Chemical Road and Gallagher Road in 2 directions and many other places. I mean, that's my world. But why can't we put up red light cameras like they have at Walnut Lane and Henry Avenue in Roxborough? They've got them all over this city. You go to places like Providence, Rhode Island, Boston, Massachusetts, and Manchester, New Hampshire, and almost every traffic light has got a red light camera. So why not put up red light cameras? I mean, if you can't do the speed cameras, the red light cameras have got to help.
My understanding is that red light cameras are the issue. I think that is what's at Roosevelt. And I actually have a write-up on that. Tony, I don't know if you know specifically.
I think that there are certain standards that apply to when you were going to install red light cameras. It deals with volume and it deals with some other things. I think the last time we looked into it, Chief, if I'm correct, is that we didn't reach the volume standard for red light cameras. We have looked into those before. We've looked into, again, we did a project where we looked into the speed cameras as well. There are certain standards that have to be met with all these things. And if we can't meet them, then we can't have them.
Are those going to be published, Karen, in the?
I'm sorry, what?
Are those requirements, or can we add links to that in the website so we can read what those limits are?
For what?
For the red light cameras.
I don't know, I don't remember that in the traffic calming policy.
There should be a link somewhere like.
Oh, okay, so, yeah, so you would like to see in our traffic calming policy if there are links, or if we're referring to something at the state level or whatever, if we can embed some hyperlinks so that you can go to that and see it, so that's something we can consider.
Because at least we could throw PennDOT under the bus, right, so everyone.
We do that all the time. This doesn't get us anywhere. We have a question here and one here, and then I'm going to move to the other side of the room. Go ahead, sir.
In Plymouth Township, how many officers do we have on duty a day? And what percentage of the time that they're on duty are they into the traffic, watching safety, speeding, and so on?
It varies how many we have during a day. I mean, each patrol squad has 8 officers off the bat. Then we have our highway officers that specifically do traffic, but that could be accidents, that could be studies, it could also be enforcement, and at any given time, probably not more than 2 of them on duty. They're spread out over many different jobs. There's detectives that wouldn't be on the street anyway doing enforcement. The fact of the matter is that Plymouth Township has one of the highest call volumes in Montgomery County. So our officers are going from call to call to call. When they make arrests, that takes more than one of them off the street for hours. And we have about 1,500 arrests a year. So you can imagine how many times a day they're off the street for hours. So when I say there are limits when you're looking for our officers to be out there to do specifically traffic control, to be able to sit somewhere uninterrupted and to do it on a consistent basis, because that's one of the biggest things. It's nice to be able to sit someplace, but if I'm only there once a week, people they might crane their neck a little bit the first time, and then they'll be like, there's nobody here. You don't have enough, and there's no way to have enough people. I mean, you'd be talking about adding dozens of officers to do something like that, and that's not reasonable.
So there's not 2 or 3 officers that specifically the whole day are watching for speeders and so on?
And not even the whole day, because they're also the ones that handle accidents, and we have a good 1,000, 1,200 accidents a year as well. So they've had other job responsibilities as well.
Okay. And if there is an officer that finds someone speeding, do they have a gun that measures how fast the car is going, or how?
No, that's radar. We're the only state in the nation that doesn't have radar. So we have to use remedial ways. That's one of our issues, that radar would make it easier and quicker, and we'd be able to do more with radar, but we don't have it.
So it's just their opinion that that person is going 5 miles over the speed limit?
No, if they're following them, our speedometers are calibrated. We have other devices to use. Sometimes that takes more than one officer to use it, but we just don't have a radar gun, which is the simplest and quickest one.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to take Gail's question next, and then I'm going to move over here because there's a person against the wall who's had her hand up a long time, and she's right after Gail.
I don't actually have a question. I have a comment to some of the questions about the cameras, and I'm only speaking to this on 2 folds. One, because I'm from Philadelphia, and I know how long it took to get cameras on Roosevelt Boulevard. My parents live right off of Roosevelt Boulevard, and it took a very long time. I lived there a good amount of my life, and so it's not a simple process to be able to do that, and that is a statewide activity. The other thing I was going to say is that some of the questions that we're asking about video cameras and red light cameras are at the state level, and we have a state rep. And so we have elected officials, a lot of elected officials in this room, but we also have a state rep, and the state rep can present a bill, right? These folks can't present a bill, but a state rep can. And so those are the folks that, they work for us. We are their constituents, and so we should be going to them and asking them for these types of things that are state related. And then I'm not saying that these group of people don't care about that. Obviously they care because we're here today talking about it. But just to let you know that you have the ability and the authority to ask your state representatives for these types of conditions and ask them to present a bill on our behalf.
Thank you. And our state representative is very responsive. His name is Greg Scott. He, in fact, holds a satellite office at the GPCC, second Tuesday of the month from 10 to 12. Or you can go visit him in Norristown, or you just telephone. So Gail's absolutely correct. We have a state representative, and that's for radar, too. So Hassel, I mean, he'll be responsive. Okay, question over here.
So I have questions, I believe, for Matt. Hi. I just want to thank you for advertising. I think there's been a very palpable difference in advertising and communicating to the community, just with everything. Even I saw near Town the post or the notice advertising this meeting. So just want to thank everyone for that. But also I had a question as it relates to the policy and then the actual application. So I mean, I think most of us have signed in and put our emails here. Could you disseminate that when it's done to everybody who's signed up here? That way we're aware of it when it's live and active.
That was the whole idea of getting contact information from you all,
Mm-hmm.
to just keep you more informed.
Okay, and then I have one more question as it relates to your focus on pedestrian access. So obviously, Town, we have been advocating for a sidewalk along Conshohocken Road to connect Town and Conshohocken, and we met we met resistance from council who conducted a feasibility study. I'm not sure if Carol actually did it, but that was denied, and it was deemed not feasible because of the speed. So I'm wondering if you're open to revisiting that, because if we're talking about speed reduction here, if we're able to reduce the speed at some point, would you be interested in revisiting that sidewalk conversation?
Not my decision. It is a state road, and so if we had already analyzed it, I'm not confident that it's going to return a more favorable response, since it's a state road.
I believe the feasibility study was due to the speed, though, predominantly, not because it was a state road.
I don't know, I haven't seen that myself.
Mm-hmm. So
I'm going to interject here. The feasibility study was also because of the cost of the sidewalk and the fact that it's not township-owned property. So it includes property owned by a business. There was the feasibility of putting a sidewalk in a place that had a steep drop-off. There was an engineering issue. There was a property owner issue. There's the cost of that, and it's not township-owned. And so there were, to your point, that was one of the issues. There were a number of issues.
Yeah, I just think if we're talking about focusing on pedestrian access, this is an area that we have been asking for, and I would just like to maintain my position that it should be revisited. If you're going to focus on pedestrian access and market that, then I think that Town deserves that revisitation.
And especially since it's a pedestrian-focused.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, you wanted, okay. Who? Okay, so I'm doing this side of the room, and I'm going to move back over to you. You'll be right after this, right after these two gentlemen. Did you just move over to this side of the room?
Hi. My question is for Mr. O'Halloran. I was just wondering if in any of the municipalities you've served, you've ever actually converted one of these dangerous intersections like Plymouth and Germantown into a roundabout. What are the pros and cons of not having traffic lights that people can run?
So I've not had a project where we have put in a roundabout, but I have examined if a roundabout would be feasible. Roundabouts in the right situation can definitely be a good option. They generally reduce the number of conflict points, which should reduce the number of crashes. So generally they're good for safety. With that said, they're not suitable for every location. It depends on the space you have. You know, they take up quite a lot of space. So there's right-of-way concerns. Also, if you have, for example, if there's a dominant flow, if one street has all the traffic and then there's side streets with little traffic, then the roundabout doesn't really operate. The folks on the side street get stranded. They can't get on the roundabout. So they are a good option, but in the right situation. And they do tend to be a little pricier. They're not as expensive as a brand new traffic signal, but they're certainly more expensive than putting up a few stop signs. So that's been my experience with them. So I guess if you did have a suggestion for a candidate
Thank you. We have another question on this side.
Yes, I have an issue. I live on Old Elm Street in Cunningtown, and you try to get out to New Elm to go to the bridge, and the traffic is backed up to Light Street, to almost the Blue Route bridges. And as I want to know if there's any coordination with Conshohocken to sync the lights, and it's just a bad situation. If we had to evacuate from Cunningtown, it would be a nightmare, because we have a major gas main that runs through Light Street all the way up through 6th Avenue and everything else. And like, you can't get out. You can't make a left-hand turn on Elm Street. You have to make a right and go up and around the Ridge Pike to get on the Blue Route. And it's just wrong. It's totally wrong. Like, where's all this volume? Where are all these people coming from? Cutting through, you know what I mean, our neighborhood. It's impossible to get through, which isn't good, which is not good. Conshohocken is poor on their speeding and everything else. Plymouth is very good about, the chief has been good about stopping speeding on New Elm and everything else. But you go to Conshohocken, you don't see no officers down on Corson Street or down by Caldwell Lane pulling anybody over for speeding. Rarely. I know the chief addressed Conshohocken one time already about it, and he said it was pretty poor what they're showing. So I like to see something happen, a little bit more happen with that.
Thank you.
If I could just address something quickly. A lot of what you say is true, and unfortunately, it's tough to move congestion or volume wherever it comes. I will say, though, as we had mentioned before, that Conshohocken has been a good partner to us in doing that whole roadway, and they've also got concerns of their own where they've got limited resources. So none of us can expect when I want to do something that Conshohocken, okay, boom, we're there too. They've got their own things, but they've been a good partner. They have worked that area, and I don't know who do you fault for the apartments and condominiums and hotels that are all there. Those people flood the streets, and it sits. It is, and it's scary because it's tough for emergency vehicles to get through too when you need help.
You're backed up that couple miles worth of backup, from the bridge all the way up to Light Street, beyond Light Street sometimes, almost up to the mansion, up there. That's pretty sad.
Yeah, it's frustrating, but we have coordinated efforts with Conshohocken. Of all the police departments, that's. It's just they sit still. I mean, it sinks, but there's nowhere for them to go.
Yeah, just so much volume. I think we're getting more volume because they're working on Ridge Pike. Is that possible?
I'm sure that traffic does divert, right? We talk about you do something on one road, they'll just go to another, and that's what's happening here. So, and that'll be.
Hopefully something better comes about. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, I'm going to take some questions on this side of the room. You and then two people back here have questions.
Hi, myself and Mr. Simpson, I know Mike and Caldwell, we are all neighborhood people, and I think that is the biggest problem here. My question is how? How is this all going to calm our neighborhoods? Because we're living here, and who's coming through? Are people coming off the Blue Route? People are coming down Germantown Pike speeding. People are coming on Ridge. I mean, yeah, it's broken up with the construction, but to me, this is a daunting, project, I guess, because there's a fantastic roundabout in Lower Southford, Shelley Road, that is beautiful, but they don't have the traffic like we do. I mean, it's a totally different area, and all these things are so great. I mean, it's amazing what is shown here today, but we have a lot of people coming from other areas, and what's that? Oh, I'm not saying we're not guilty. I just said that there's more of them coming through our area that.
It's not that, we are in an area.
Yeah, that's what the hell is.
And we want that, to be honest, maybe this is people come through our town.
Yeah, it contributes to our success, and I think as the chief pointed out, we are a transient community. We are at the crossroads of north, south, east, and west. We've got the Northeast Extension, the Blue Route, and the East and West Turnpike. And we have great arterial roads coming, I don't know if that's the right use of the word arterial, but we have these great big roads coming down to feed them, Ridge Pike, Germantown Pike. It's so easy to get everywhere from here, and that's what people are doing. And actually, and I got to attribute our township manager for this, because he told me this. He said, you know, it's not just the transient people, but we're traffic too. We take our kids to school rather than put them on the school bus. We take the, and I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. I'm just saying we contribute to traffic if everyone's driving their children separately rather than putting them on the school bus. We go to the grocery store. Are we combining our trips to get gas and groceries? Are we going to go get the groceries, come back, and then go later to get the gas? So we're part of the traffic too. I mean, we can't, you know, there are ways for us maybe to reduce it ourselves, but we're not all of it, that's for sure. So we had a couple of questions here. Did you have another question, Tony, or is it just?
It's not a particular question, but.
Okay, well, I just want you to speak here. If you have even a comment or a suggestion.
I was wondering if the flashing pedestrian lights, that you push the button and the lights flash, does that have to be state mandated, or can we just put those up? You could just put those up?
No, unfortunately. Anything with a light is considered a traffic signal, and PennDOT have to implement it.
Because I was thinking at the intersection or by the school where Mr. Pasquarello had a problem, if there had been a button there, the light would come on, and everybody would have known there was somebody crossing the street.
Yeah. Things like flashing signs, PennDOT, there's a little less red tape getting those approved. So yeah, that is an option.
Do you need that for local roads too?
Yes, and anything with like I said, anything with a light is considered a signal, and the signals are all permitted by PennDOT. Now, when you go to design a signal on an entirely township road, you know, PennDOT are aware of that. They're also very busy, that they're swamped with, you know, they're understaffed like every place, so they're not gonna, you know, waste time like nickel and diming the township over a flashing sign, for example, unless they have a very good safety reason to prohibit the sign.
Are there any other, it's 8 o'clock, so I want to respect the time of the people who came here. But are there any other questions that are just burning? And if you think of something later, you can contact any of us, okay? I will turn that over to our baseball expert, Lynn Vicia. Okay, I want to thank everybody for coming, seriously. Thank you so much.